Alright, welcome back to the AJ 300 ARS build, or ARS 300. Last video I think I went over the elevators. Since then I went ahead and finished up the wings. The hardest part to that is getting these guys fitted because the slots are not perfect, so that takes a little while. And then I actually had to trim and sand a little bit of the upper skin because they were too far over, so it was bowing up and causing this to wrinkle trying to push them in. So I cleaned that up a little bit, but nothing crazy there. The wings have some string ran in them to pull your leads. This one really doesn't need it. That one you definitely need an extension and use the string. It has a little bracket on the end of the wing that has a slit cut in it that holds the strings. Kind of a neat little feature. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward on that. And just some regular 30-minute epoxy gluing those in. I use tape around this. Once I put them on, mark it, take them back off, cut off the cover underneath, and then I'll go back and put tape in around it before I glue it. That makes life so much easier when that happens. And then the hardware is your typical 440 bolt washer, the centering lock nut, same thing here, 440 washer, the ball end with the standoff, and due to the thickness I can't put the lock nut on, so I'll just make sure I will Loctite those really well. Hold on a second, guys, I gotta check something here again. Get out of there! Yeah, I knew it. Bought one of those crazy litter robots, and this little guy, we have two, seems to like to go over there and try to get in the hole when it rotates upside down. So totally worth the money. Don't have to scoop again. Great for cats. They're not that expensive either, but anyways. Yeah, you demon. Anyways, so other than that, the typical, the way they do this day and age, your servo arm at 90 degrees is going to be, you're not going to be parallel that. And I guess the theory behind that is when the arm goes to the extreme, it will be, more in line on the rod there. So I used to make them, everything perpendicular. So I guess I'll give this a try, just due to the length of the arms. That's the only way to do it. So that's pretty much the wings. I'm gonna put a multiplex adapter since they have 3 pin, the total of 6 pins on a multiplex adapter or plug. I'm gonna use 3 and 3 for the servos, and then the fuselage will have the female multiplex attached to it, so it'll just be a plug-in for the wings once, for the servos. After that, I put the Futaba ARS, or HPS A700 in. It's like over 1,000 ounces of torque, so I didn't have 2 servos. The thing to note about this particular servo, it's got much bigger screws in it, so just note that. And it's pretty straightforward. Just make sure you throw some CA in those holes. There's a lot of torque on this particular servo. Then after that, I held off on the throttle servo just because I need to get the motor installed. So I went ahead and did the landing gear on the fuselage and the tail wheel. All straightforward. The biggest thing is knowing where the hardware goes, just because they don't give it to you. 440 bolts and washers on the wheel pants that holds them on. You got your shaft with a lock nut, and then there's 2 wheel collars. that go on there as well. The fairings here, nothing crazy with those either. The landing gear is pre-drilled. It has like a wood type screw, little short wood type screws that you use. I put some CA around there's a wood piece inside here that kind of sits the gap between the fiberglass piece and the actual carbon fiber. So I just put a little bit of CA on that, made sure it was secured, and those screw right on. You can actually put those on before you even put the gear on. Then after that, put the gear on. It's essentially, it's a larger bolts. I don't know the size of them. I forget. Apologies, but you can see them. Kind of hard to see in there, but you got 2 lock nuts and 2 on the side. But the way they do it, I got the center plate on there, but I've got pictures of all that. So you've got your bolt. You take your bolt. You put a lock nut, a lock washer on. You put the regular washer on, put it through the landing gear into the fuselage, and then on top you put another lock washer, a washer, lock washer, and then the nut. Kind of excessive, but that's what that comes with. That's how the hardware is. I don't really see why you need a lock washer on the same side as a lock nut, but hey, that's what the video showed of another model, of one of the other models from AJ, so I followed suit. And the equipment that came with the landing gear bag, it had all in there. So that is the setup for landing gear. So there's 4 bolts that hold that on. The center cover is just a balsa sheet covered. It has holes drilled in it to give you access to the landing gear. So I guess if you wanted to open those up and glue that block to the landing gear, you could, but I just used some shoe goop kind of on the, like 2 spots on the fork, because there was a gap between the front and the back when this piece was in. There's a gap, so I did a little bit of shoe goop here, 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 and here, so you can easily take a razor blade and cut it. This is just white electrical tape, so it's all removable if you need to replace the gear or something. But that's how I held mine in. Plus this kind of helps hold it in over time, and I didn't want to have the holes, you know. I didn't want, like if the landing gear got broken, I had to order new landing gear. I didn't want the centerpiece being glued to the landing gear, so it's a lot easier to work on that way. But that was the mains. And then after that, jump back here to the tail wheel. Nothing crazy there. It's there again is your hold on, she's not focusing. Sorry guys. I'll back up a little bit. So 3 washers, 3 440 bolts. It has lock nuts inside, so it's easy. You just got to make sure you align it because there's a little bit of slop. So you make sure the carbon tail wheel mount is straight. All this portion was pre-assembled. I just went through and tightened it, made sure everything was good. The little ball end that's on the bottom of the rudder is, sorry, I gotta back up, she's not focusing. But you see the rod going into the ball, to the ball end that's mounted to the bottom of the rudder. This was a little tiny wheel collar, and that's the only place I could think of that you put it to kind of keep it from, you know, flex. I don't know what I guess that's what that's for. I'm not 100%, but there's no rod in here with that kind of size wheel collar other than this rod, and it was in the landing gear package, not the tail wheel package, so I have no idea. So maybe somebody can tell me. After that, jumped on. Oh, sorry. I don't think I can't remember if I've done a video on the rudder or not. I may have. Yeah, I think I have. Sorry, losing traction. But anyways, so after that, I went to the pull cables. Like I said, I got some extra hardware because I'm not doing the 2 servo setup. But other than that, it's just your typical crimp style. They give you enough to do 2 per end. So you have 2 crimps and 2 crimps, and then 2 crimps and 2 crimps at the other end, and I put kind of a tip just to put a piece of shrink wrap or shrink tubing over it just to make it look kind of tidy it all up. And you do that at both ends. I started it at this end, plugged up the servo, and centered it, and then pulled, and then did this portion of it. It's nice and centered. I left a little bit of room. I backed these off just a little bit, that way I can screw those in to kind of put tension on this. Once it's stretched a little bit, because it's going to stretch a little bit once you fly it. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. So the next thing for me to do that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the elevators on, but I got to make 2 leads with the female ends on them and plug those in and get the leads ran to the front. So once that's done, it's essentially 2 of the 440 bolts per side with a washer, blind nuts on the inside. So that's straight 2 carbon rods. They're both dissimilar size, so you can't confuse them. And after that is on, it'll be a quick jump to the motor. And like I said, I didn't mount the throttle servo just because if you mount it like the way they have it set in there, the throttle control arm on the carburetor is not down here where that servo would be driving it. It's more going to be up in here. So I'll probably use this box inside with the servo mounted to that inside to kind of give it a, have to drill a hole in and out for the throttle. They have a template. It says DA100 3W106, but it also mentions in the video that I saw for a similar aircraft that this will also work for the DA120, and based off of that pattern and putting it on here, the GP is apparently the same as a DA. So this will work for the DA or the GP. Only thing I don't like is if you notice those 2 holes at the top are very undersized, so when you drill it to that size, you're pretty much going to tear off the top of this. And then when you look at it on the model, you can kind of see that those holes are going to be right against the angle stock, and then you take the thickness of the mount, and it's probably going to need some trimmed up here to accommodate the top part of the mount. So, but it's got lines burnt into to line everything up and drill, to mark your holes to drill, so that'll be fairly quick. But that's what I'm going to work on next, is getting the motor mounted, and then the pipes will go in as well. So if anybody knows or sees this and knows the gap for these plugs, it talks about it on the box here, but it doesn't really say what your gap should be. Hold on, maybe it does. Let's see. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. Either my eyes are starting to go bad, or no, I can read that. I just can't read the very first one that shows the gap. Yeah, I'm about to be 42, so I'm guessing my eyes are gonna go next. It's about the only thing on me that's still working like they should. But anyways, that's 14 minutes. Anyways, so that's a very long-winded video. So that's kind of what I've done so far. If you got any questions, comments, by all means, post at the forum on the www.fb-rc.com. Like I said, under the airplanes, I got the airplane builds section. So feel free to comment. It's getting kind of lonely on this forum thing. So you guys take it easy. Happy New Year.